Hello, everyone. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast, where every week, Jeff Glover will dive deep into the questions that you are asking. He understands the challenges you are facing on a day-to-day basis because he still works every day on the front lines of real estate, with him and his team closing over 1,000 homes per year. Today, Jeff will continue the truths about real estate. Truth number 6, being in production versus out of production. We'll learn from Jeff why you should continue to be in production while leading your team. Now let's hear from Jeff Glover.
So this particular topic is truths of real estate today, being in production versus being out of production. You know, through the years, I've witnessed a lot of real estate leaders, lead agents of teams, essentially people that would be considered leaders in this industry, make the decision once they reached a certain level of production to remove themselves from the business. And when I say remove themselves from the business, what I mean is the business of selling homes. You know, we're in an industry where obviously teams are the norm nowadays. You see a lot of real estate teams, and it seems like instead of agents are joining brokerages, they're joining teams. And why are they joining teams? They're joining teams because, quite honestly, the teams are offering more value than the brokerages can provide. And that's because of the splits to agents at the brokerages are so high that over the last decade, probably 15 years, the brokerages have had to consistently look for ways to operate leaner and meaner because the splits to agents have gotten so high. So because the splits to agents have gotten so high, the brokers have not been able to provide the value that they used to provide. And, you know, so it's kind of interesting. If you look at the real estate teams today, most real estate teams are providing the function that that brokerages provided in the 80s and 90s, right? If you look back to the 80s and 90s, for those of you that were in the business then, brokerages were on 50-50 splits, 40-60 splits, 60-40 splits with their agents, and were able to provide a slew of benefits, advertising, marketing materials, leads, floor time, signage. The brokers used to provide all that. And the reason why they did is because they could afford to. They had enough revenue coming in from their agents to where they could go spend that revenue on things that help their agents produce more. Well, as things have changed over the last decade, brokerages have gotten away from providing value because, quite honestly, they can't simply afford to. And so that's why you're seeing real estate teams become the norm today. The real estate teams are taking the place of the brokerages that we saw in the 80s and 90s that provided a ton of value. And now the teams are providing value, which is causing people to either live better lives because they're not working as hard, or have more services for a lower cost because ultimately an educated real estate agent knows that it doesn't matter what the split is, it's all about what the net is, or quite frankly are able to provide the leadership, the accountability, the training, the support that the brokerages just can't provide anymore because, again, the splits are too aggressive in favor of the agents. So the reason why this one is an important one for me is because I get the question all the time, well, how do you attract agents to not only want to work for you or with you, but how do you get them to stay? And my response is simple. Every single time my response is because I lead by example. I'm willing to get into the trenches every single day. I mean, I've got a listing appointment tonight at 6 o'clock. Pretty much every day I've got an opportunity to go get a listing signed or go work with the new buyers, and I'm leading by example, which you've heard a million times by now because obviously you've seen a few of these up until this point. But this particular topic is passionate to me because I remember a time when probably 5-6 years ago, I was one of the guys, I belonged to a mastermind group of probably 100 or so people, maybe 200 now. And I was one of the rare apples, if you will, that was still in production. And quite honestly, I would almost get poked fun of to some degree by being in production because a lot of people in this particular group, and quite frankly, a lot of agents in this industry have this belief that once I get the team up and running and we have this sizable business, then I can get out of production. And the reality is that you certainly can get out of production if you've got somebody just as strong, if not stronger than you as a leader, as a sales leader, someone that is willing to stay in production and lead the team, number one. Number two, and you're willing to give up a significant percentage of your profits because once you get out of production, then the profits that you were realizing from that production goes down substantially. Now, of course, you'd say, well, how does it go down if I have agents working the business that I would work? Well, the reality is, in a lot of cases, if you're a good salesperson, their conversion ratio isn't going to be as high as yours, so you're going to lose transactions there. And number two, obviously, if you have them on a 40, 60, 50, 50, 60, 40, whatever split it is you have them on, you're now giving up 40, 50% of your revenue. And again, not all of them are going to convert. So I want to share with you something I wrote about this particular topic, again, because I didn't want to leave anything out. And I'll jump into it now. So I wrote down, I'm totally out of production now, which, by the way, I've met a lot of agents that almost brag. They're boastful about that. And I could never understand why, because how does that sound to your people? How do you think your agents respond to that when they're in production and they're grinding it out every day? You think that really sounds cool to hear their leaders say, I don't get to grind it out anymore? Ha. No, it doesn't. So let me jump in. So I wrote down, and again, normally I just go from bullet points and share whatever comes to mind, but I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So forgive me for reading word for word of something I wrote. So I wrote down, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the above statement from agents. That's I'm totally out of production now. Not just from our market, but from across the country. What's amazing to me is that so many agents, or should I say business owners, think that getting out of production is the pinnacle of their career, and as a byproduct out of true leadership, but to produce successful producers. See, this is what happens when I read word for word. I'm already down to the next paragraph. Business owners that think getting out of production is the pinnacle of their career, when in reality, the day they make that statement is the day that they've waved bye-bye to not only the lion's share of their profits, but also the respect from their associates, as they are no longer leading from the front. Again, it goes back to, how can you brag about being out of production when you're expecting me to produce? You're expecting me to show up and produce, and you're over there saying, "Hey, you're onto something else. You're out of production." Now, of course, if you're out of production and have replaced yourself with someone who's better at producing and leading than you are, that's the exception to the rule. I want you to hear that loud and clear. I'm totally okay if you decide you want to go open a restaurant or go volunteer your time somewhere. I'm fine with, go try out for the Detroit Tigers, whatever it is you want to do. I'm okay with that, as long as you've replaced yourself with someone who is better at production and better at leadership than you. Because you can go out and get a great sales leader, but if they're not a producing sales leader, then they're not setting the example, which is the number one way to motivate your people, by leading by example. So I wrote down, this is the very reason that Glover U exists today. Not to produce successful business owners who have a goal to step out of production and, as a byproduct, out of true leadership, but to produce successful producers, because at the end of the day, true talent refuses to surround themselves by people who are unwilling to go hard. At the end of the day, true talent refuses to surround themselves with people who are unwilling to go hard. True talent refuses to be led by people who are telling and not doing. Even saying, back in the day, or I used to, is not as strong as saying, guys, I just went on an appointment last night and here's what happened. Right? Think of the power in that. So for those of you that are finding yourself in a situation where you've had to get back into production, as you probably call it, or even worse, are touting it as if it's a bad thing, first of all, congratulate yourself for making the right choice. I mean, I've seen agents from all over the country that were once bragging about being out of production and now are in production. Hey, be proud of that. You know what? Hey, we make mistakes. I'm not throwing shade or saying anything that, you're a bad person for doing that. I hope you learned your lesson, and I hope that you'll realize next time you don't get out of production until you've found someone that can do the job of a leader better than you can, which means they have to produce more and they have to be a better leader than you. So congratulate yourself for making the right choice, not only for you, but for everyone on your team who trusts and looks up to you. And if you're wondering what the path looks like now, reach out to me. I'd be glad to share with you how I balance my day, how I balance leadership and production, and how I'm still able to live an unreal life and have time for personal activities and have time for travel and have time for other businesses, right? You can have other businesses and be involved in investing in real estate and doing other things without getting out of production. I can help. We can help. Our culture is production, and true leaders are born out of doing what most people won't do. Personally, I've never left production, and truthfully, it's never been a goal of mine. Why is that? Well, because I know exactly what it takes to not only grow your business, but also grow your profits. And it's staying in production. Now, I know I used to get made fun of from time to time. Oh, Jeff, he's just kind of weird. He actually likes going on appointments, and he actually likes being in sales. Yeah, to some degree, I don't mind it. It's not like the first thing I think of every morning. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to prospect, or I can't wait to do lead follow-up, or I can't wait to go out and present to the seller and get beat up and have to overcome their objections. I don't necessarily look forward to it every day, but the reason why I know I have to do it every single day is to lead by example for my people. So go ahead, set your ego aside and know that it's okay to admit it. Everyone makes mistakes, including me. Trust me. I have a trusted team behind me that reminds me of this frequently and helps me course correct if I need to. But just like they don't hold it against me, we won't hold it against you, and we're here to help you. So if you're in that situation where you got out of production and you got, your profits are down, or maybe you're having struggles with your team, reach out. I can tell you what you need to do to get it turned around. Or if you've recently decided to go back into production, I love taking someone that wants to be in production and at the same time grow a team. Still have the mindset that you own a business and you're above this conversation? That's okay. We'll still be here for you when you realize that all you really own is a database, which is worth a lot, by the way, and that your true asset is the people you pour into who are building your organization day in and day out. We've talked about this on another live. I hear from time to time agents will come to my office and say, yeah, I think I'm going to go independent. I really want to do my own thing. I want to have my own business. The reality is, the only business any of us have is our database. The people that know us, like us, and trust us. That group of people, whether it's 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, that is your business. All right? These walls, these lights, these chairs, these desks, that's not a business. The name on the door, that's not a business. All right? I go away, that goes away. That's the industry we're in. Unfortunately, we don't have a product. We're not in the products business, right? This isn't like I'm manufacturing a Uniroyal tire, and it's an amazing tire, and everyone loves the product, and when I pass away, the product is going to live on forever. We're in the service industry. In the service industry, I'm sorry, when you pass away, your business is not going to live on forever. Now, of course, there will be some exceptions to that rule, and I'd be kidding myself. I mean, look at the company Coldwell Banker, right? At some point in time, there was a gentleman by the last name of Coldwell, and there was a gentleman by the last name of Banker. That company is still living on, all right? And of course, Coldwell and Banker are no longer with us, those two individuals that started the company, but the company is still living on. So are there exceptions to this rule in the service industry? There sure are, but there's not many, all right? It's different when you're in the products industry, when you have a product that you're selling. So set your ego aside. No, it's okay, all right? Everyone makes mistakes. If you are in a position where it's time to get back into production, let's talk. I want to help you out, okay? And I wrote down, when you stop having value to bring to your people, you stop being a leader for them. Trust me, they will find a new leader. More than anything, I will share with you how to get to the next level if you are looking to get into production, back into production. Okay, a couple things I wrote down. Number one, I did a Facebook Live from Florida. I talked about my predictions, disruptions, and solutions to what I believe is not only taking place in the market now, but what I think is going to happen next year in the market. So if you can go find it on Facebook, go for it. Make sure you watch it. We will be redoing it and putting it out there on YouTube so you can watch it at a later date. But the reality is I can't tell you how important that video is and how much time and energy and thought I put into that video. Why? Because I want you to be prepared for the market that's coming. I want you to be prepared for exactly what we're seeing take place right now and what we predict is going to happen in 2020. And then, of course, I shared a whole slew of solutions to those predictions and those disruptions in 2020. Last but certainly not least, if you haven't got your summit ticket, Live Unreal Summit, January 6th, 7th, and 8th in Orlando, Florida. We just checked out the resort this weekend. It's an awesome resort. I announced, by the way, on that live video, our two keynotes. One is an author on over 20 books based on leadership and the customer experience. And the second keynote so far, the former executive of Ritz-Carlton marketing department, the one that was behind Blow the Dust Off the Crown. And let's recreate this entire branding message. So a couple awesome keynotes. We put the schedule out there. If you go to liveunrealsummit.com, you can see that. You can see the full agenda. It's a pretty inexpensive way to go for 3 full days of content with masterminds, with panels, with one-on-one interviews, with us sharing from stage everything that we did to go from 100 transactions from our database to 400 in just 3 years, 100 to 400 in 3 years. I'm sharing you start to finish how we did that. because quite honestly, customer service and the customer experience was never a big push of mine. And the reality is the last 3 years it has been. And I'm real excited about the keynotes that we have coming in, and of course everything we're going to share with you. So if you're in production, stay in production always. Don't have the goal to get out of production unless you're terrible at it. Unless you're a bad leader and you're terrible at production, go ahead, get out of production. Let somebody else run it for you if you got something good. But for gosh darn it, stay in production, and let me help you with that. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you for taking your time to join Jeff today on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast. To get started on having an unreal business, take the Real Estate Self-Assessment. After you complete the assessment, a member of Glover U will get on a call with you to create an action plan to improve your score. Go to www.gloveru.com/self. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Search for Live Unreal with Glover U on iTunes, Podbean, or Spotify, and subscribe today. Until next time, remember, when you stop having value to bring to your people, you stop being a leader for them.